Excited about this one. We're going to welcome Jamila Calhoun from Eventbrite. She's the global head of product marketing. She previously was at Audible, On Deck Capital, and American Express. She graduated from Yale and has a Harvard MBA, so damn, she's smart. And she's going to chat about the importance of PMMs in product-led growth companies, which is a fascinating topic. So welcome, Jamila.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much to Product Marketing Alliance for having me here today. I won't, sorry, oh, the clicker. Thank you. Make sure we get that technology up and going. Well, all that fluff, thank you for the wonderful introduction, Devin. But I am really excited to be here to speak to you guys about the roles that product marketers can really play in driving growth in product-led organizations. We know that, of course, product marketing has a strong presence and connection with our sales and marketing engines for growth. But one thing that I'm really passionate about is ensuring that product marketers continue to have a strong role to play when the engine of growth is really rooted in the product. So, first, I'll start off with a bit of introduction for myself. One piece that I always love to think about with product marketing is everyone's career path to this field looks entirely different. So I like to call myself a career shapeshifter. And though I have spent time in a few different organizations now, having led and built new product marketing teams at American Express, Audible, and now at Eventbrite, where I've recently joined, I actually started my career as a finance and consulting minion. So very much in a very different realm. But what I find so exciting is the fact that I bring some of those skill sets and perspectives to bear all the time, thinking strategically, thinking from a data-driven perspective, and really driving the KPIs in the business. So I really am passionate about forums like this that are really built to and help and equip different professionals with the tools needed to ultimately succeed in product marketing. So we'll go into that more, but of course I always think it's fun to do a little trip down memory lane. So question for the group here, and we'll just do it by raise of hands. Who believes that actually product marketing's role becomes larger in a product-led growth company versus a sales and marketing-led growth company? Okay, 50-50, you know, we're seeing a few little like waving hands like this. Well, hopefully by the end of this, we will absolutely start to ensure that all hands are raised by the end of this, that the role that product marketing plays, especially in product-led growth companies, is actually even more important. It's important everywhere, to be clear. But if your product colleagues just aren't really understanding exactly what product marketing does or exactly why you're kind of meant to be more involved in things like UX design, I'll explain why. All right. So first off, I want to take that step back as we think about what is ultimately the goal of product marketing, which is really to ensure that synergizing of product market fit. One aspect of this is that it's a little bit of a misnomer that we only call it product market fit. If your product and your market fit, but ultimately the business model you put behind it to monetize it doesn't align with the product or the customer you're ultimately trying to serve, or if you put this product into a channel where the customers don't actually exist, aren't relevant to them, then you haven't fully aligned the flywheel of growth. And so when I think of product market fit, it's truly in this four-way model across the product, the market, the model, and the channel. So what that means within a product-led growth company is that actually, number one, your channel is your product. And so here, again, you have the double importance of ensuring that the product experience fits your market because it is ultimately your channel as well. And so that alignment becomes even more important for product marketers to lean into and support their product management colleagues in achieving that cohesion. The second piece is that your monetization model must incentivize the product behaviors that you're wanting. So for example, if you're thinking about a company that wants to incentivize binging behavior like we all do with Netflix, a rental model for monetization is going to disrupt and add friction to a binging behavior. So you want to ensure that if you're primarily monetizing and growing through your product, which is ultimately your channel, that the monetization you put against it is going to not only of course, make money for the business, but think about the long-term behaviors of the customer lifecycle you're trying to create and ultimately help that along. So I always lastly like to point to this Peter Drucker quote, is really to know and understand our customers so well that the product sells itself. And that's exactly the goal of the product-led growth company. The product selling itself because it's so intuitive and serves such a key need and solves a problem that customers really value. All right, so now what that leads to is, well, what role does product marketing play in this ecosystem? There are a few different aspects that shift when you're in a product-led organization. One piece is the interaction model between the various cross-functional stakeholders. Another piece is what are your primary communication channels and outbound strategies for your growth. So we'll get to that next, but let's start on the organization piece. Naturally, we want to ensure in any organization that there's that super close alignment and partnership between product management and product marketing. In traditional sales and marketing growth companies, product marketing really serves as that interfacing layer that communicates to the sales and marketing organizations. And so you kind of see a more linear product development cycle where upfront product management's really leaning in with some support from product marketing. And as things kind of go more into go-to-market, you start to see product marketing playing that role with the outbound teams. In a product-led organization, which I've put in the very simple diagram on the right, you really have to have that close alignment at the very top of the product development cycle between product management and product marketing. That's because ultimately you have to make sure that the sales strategy is ultimately the product strategy. And so in organizations that I've been in where it is product-led, I always go in to ensure at the very top that it is understood that there's a one-to-one relationship between product management and product marketing. Ideally, one of the ways that we help to reinforce this, we all know that our product managers are always working closely with their engineers on product requirements documents. Well, one tool that I use to ensure this alignment is actually what I call a market requirements document. This document is meant to articulate for the product what are the customers and the requirements ultimately in order to successfully introduce this product into the market, successfully commercialize this product into the market. And so this document helps to articulate things like what is that potential monetization model? What is that competitive landscape? And we use that as a mirror document for the product requirements document to drive the product development cycle. And so that close alignment at the very top becomes absolutely central. So the next piece is really how do you start to manifest the strategy in front of customers? And here's where I bring in other stakeholders such as UX design, UX research as critical to the eventual development of an experience that's going to drive the type of growth that the company wants. And here, building a direct connection and more specific collaboration with those teams, UX design, marketing, and sales, ensures that the messaging in product, the positioning in product, and positioning sometimes literally physically on a page, aligns with the positioning that you ultimately see as important for growth relative to your competition and relative to the needs of the customers. So I alluded to this earlier. The other piece that shifts a bit when you're in a product-led organization is this aspect of how you ultimately shape your communications. And there's two types here. One is your primary communications channels that are primarily focused on conversion. And then there's other channels that are focused on reinforcement, lifecycle engagement, and other areas of user usage rates that you want to incentivize. So in terms of the traditional marketing-led organization, we know that sales and performance marketing are key areas for driving conversion. For product-led organizations, performance marketing definitely has a role to play here on just getting people onto your surfaces. But the second piece that often is underappreciated is the importance of brand marketing. If you don't have that high-touch relationship with the customer to establish what your values are and what you stand for through a sales conversation, you need to be able to communicate those values at scale. So the role that brand marketing plays also elevates. But this last piece is where product-led organizations really, really hone in and focus, which is focusing on that very specific acquisition and onboarding journey that's going to help shepherd customers into your experience in a seamless and frictionless way. And those are the primary ways that you can drive conversion in these environments. Now, other things become a bit more secondary that are more focused again on driving high usage and lifecycle management. So here's where some high-touch customers may engage with the sales team, or you may have a customer success team that's ultimately focused on certain high-value customers. And of course, lifecycle marketing and other in-product notifications and pop-ups are also really important for reinforcement as well. So one of the things that I always think about when in these types of organizations are what are the surfaces within the product that we can leverage to market things to our customers. And that's your notification centers, the interstitial pop-ups that really sometimes annoy you and you quickly swipe away as you open a new app. But those are absolutely critical surfaces for a product marketer to keep an eye on, to own, and really ensure that the messaging comes to life on. All right, so more specifically now on like, what do we do day to day? And so on the teams that I'm leading, here are the 4 key areas that we help support our product management team and business on. Now, of course, you guys all know that every single one of your organization's product marketing teams looks slightly different, engages and spikes on slightly different areas of the skill set. But for me, here are the 4 key areas that I think are absolutely crucial. Number 1 is on messaging. Of course, this is the hallmark of everything that we do as product marketers. But as I mentioned, one of the key factors in this type of organization is the fact that a lot of the messaging has to occur in products. So you're spending a lot of time thinking about how do we really make these CTAs even tighter within the product? How do we describe features with fewer characters than you normally get if you're mostly doing messaging through a talk sheet for your sales team, or you're normally doing messaging through emails to customers? You have a lot less space to do it. And so this messaging work becomes all the more important because it has to get really tight and really specific. The second piece that I really focus on is personalization. So there's a huge role for product marketers to play in helping product owners understand the shape of the landscape as far as customer segmentations are concerned, and not just knowing what the segments are, but prioritizing which ones we want to serve and what matters to them at particular points in the journey. And so I think as customers and companies push more and more for personalization in their experiences and in the way that they're spoken to, in the way that they are kind of brought into the journey, there's a role for product marketing to play in ensuring that that language is disseminated throughout the organization. The next piece, of course, is monetization. I spoke earlier about the importance of ensuring that the business model aligns with the customer's expectations, willingness to pay, and their use cases. And that way, because product marketers have that close alignment with the segmentation, with understanding the customers and the competitive landscape, this is an area that product marketers can definitely lean into and have a very clear perspective to add. The last piece is around the journey coordination. So again, in-product messaging and marketing becomes incredibly important. But what sometimes can happen is the in-product messaging is being shaped through product management, UX design, and then the marketing teams separately are thinking through the off-product marketing, the emails, the sales talking points, et cetera. And you can start to see some disconnects between the language that's being used in product and those off-product touch points. So it's a key role that product marketing can play at the center of these teams to ensure that there is a coherent and cohesive language that's being used both in product and off product. All right. So we're going to go into a quick case study of a situation that I faced at Audible where we were basically trying to ensure growth for a new all-you-can-eat version of their media streaming service. So previously, Audible had a model that focused on a book a month, if you will. And we introduced a newer all-you-can-eat tier of service that was at a lower price point, didn't have the full content catalog available. At the initial launch, the number of new customers were underperforming the ultimate goals of what the company really wanted to achieve here. So I know we're tight on time. I know you guys all know what matters to customers in their various purchase journeys. So I won't quiz you guys now. But I thought this provided a great example of the way that personalization and segmentation can come to life in building acquisition journeys that drive growth. All right, so one of the key unlocks that product marketing was able to build into this process was the need for a multi-dimensional segmentation. Many companies have gone through segmentation exercises and oftentimes will default to one of these 3 or 4, if you count the middle bucket, lenses for understanding their customers. So at Audible, of course, you can imagine people love to read all kinds of different books. And so the what here is how customers' tastes differ. So are they a fiction reader? Are they a nonfiction reader primarily? Is it fantasy, sci-fi, etc.? But what we learned in introducing another tier of service was that there were other factors that really started to be important in the way we needed to talk to customers and incentivize them to see themselves using our service. So the other ones were, one, on the why. How do customers' consideration sets differ? So for example, if we have 2 tiers of service at different price points, and at different usage models, one a book a month and another one at an all-you-can-eat, it really speaks to more of their psychographics. Are they someone who, in general, doesn't like to be limited? Just wants the all-you-can-eat. Like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to select the one book every month. That means I have to optimize for what's really worth it this month, right? That's too much thinking for me. So that's a different type of customer. For others, it's all about willingness to pay. Like more than $5, no thanks. And so we had to bring that lens into our work here in understanding how to shape the acquisition journey. And the other piece is when and how much people want to consume. Again, on the binge behavior that certain customers display versus I have a once a month book club and I'm just gonna really need to get one book a month in order to make sure that I'm not the person at book club who didn't do the reading. I know that's none of you guys. And so, of course, use cases differ. And what we found is that occasions played a huge role in this. For some people, they're really looking for an escape at the end of the day. For others, it's that inspiration in the beginning of the day when you open up your podcast or your really inspirational business book, all about product marketing, I'm sure, and you want to start your day on the right foot. And so the last piece, of course, is behaviors and demographics. Oftentimes at tech companies, it's a little bit uncomfortable to think about the roles that demographics play in our businesses. But absolutely, in order to show relevance, this was an important lens that we wanted to bring into our exercise as well. And so what happened when we ultimately used this framework to drive our strategy? Number one, we ended up understanding that we had a two-part acquisition journey. One, we had to acquire people into the service, and two, we had to show people the specific book that they wanted to listen to and get them to convert into listening to that book. So that's two different strategies that we needed to ultimately ensure that our acquisition journey was built for. Selling them the subscription and selling them their first listen. The next piece was, again, this tiered pricing model, understanding that customers had different willingness to pay and had different kind of behavioral orientations and use cases for how they were going to engage with our service. The third piece was more customizable acquisition journeys. So we started to build in more user-driven acquisition where they could do a quick quiz on, hey, are you a morning listener? Are you an evening listener? That way we could actually gather more information about the customer in the acquisition journey that would help us more clearly suggest to them, one, the right plan for them, and two, again, that right first listen. So how do we embed more intelligence into the process so that people can really be directed in a direction that feels more personalized to them? The fourth piece is we added more occasion-based product discovery into our discovery landing page, as well as on our acquisition journey, our acquisition page, we added swipeable features that allowed us to showcase content relevant to different parts of the day. This was a key insight that really allowed us to start to contextualize our books and listening so that people could see themselves using the product and ultimately saying, yeah, this is a worthwhile investment for me. The last piece is, of course, understanding the role that, again, how customers consider their decisions. Some were really driven by social proof, and some people really see their reading behaviors as being really private, really niche, like I want to find that unique read that no one else is talking about. And others were like, I want the Oprah Book Club. And so we built our discovery as well as elements on our acquisition pages to bring these to bear. And it's fun if you guys have time later, pull up the audible.com mobile on your mobile browser and you can see our new experience, which really elevates, again, the importance of the content, contextualizing the content, but also giving people more information so that they can make informed decisions about the right model for them. So, to recap, product-led growth companies require even tighter alignment between all four areas of product market fit, including the model and the channel that you ultimately put against your product and market. Second, the product marketing team plays a crucial role in ensuring cohesive communications in and off products. And so that's a really crucial opportunity to build more relationships cross-functionally with multiple different stakeholders, including UX design, product, sales, and marketing. And lastly, in-depth customer segmentation can be used, number one, to make a more robust acquisition journey, but also to inform the core product development, especially if you're looking at how people ultimately discover and use multiple different features within your product experience. So I hope this was a helpful view on how product marketers are ready to take on the product-led growth challenge. And I'm excited for your questions here. It looks like we've got a good slate.
Thank you, Jamila. So it seems to me like product-led growth companies, if you're a product marketer, you get to work on all the great strategic stuff and you don't have to deal with all the bad stuff. So fantastic. We got a lot of questions. We have a couple I think 4 minutes or so let's jump right in. Can any company become product-led? What if the product is very complex and always needs sales to speak to it?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think, again, if we think about acquisition in multiple parts, one is just purely the conversion to understanding, does the person have a need for this? And does the person have this problem to solve? If you have a very complex product, at times that conversation can be very nuanced, has to be very specific to the customer situation. And so I think at times at the very top of the funnel, there are companies that make more sense to have a more high-touch acquisition strategy. However, you also have to think about, like I mentioned, not just the acquisition at the very top, but that ongoing adoption and usage. So one, if you introduce new features to the product, you may want for the existing customers to be able to adopt that new feature in product. So you can have product-led growth strategies within your experience and dealing with your customer base at large, even while the very top of the funnel might still need a more high-touch conversation. So you want to kind of ensure that the sales team are able to spend more of their time having those conversations than ultimately having to sell in every single new feature, every new capability that comes out. And so having the skill set of building more product-led adoption strategies will be helpful to any organization.
Makes sense. All right. What was up on the top, now it's on number 2. I'm going to pick that one because I like this one. Should product management complete both the PRD and MRD, so product requirement doc, marketing requirement doc? Is there any overlap between the two? I think this is interesting because you showed that in your model, it's not linear, so that product management and product marketing sort of sit side by side. So I'd imagine there's some tension over ownership on something.
Yeah. So I think that one area to resolve some of that tension, and actually that the person kind of mentioned in the question, is oftentimes embedding some strategic overlap between the two documents. But ideally, the way that I usually structure it is that the product management team owns the product PRD, product requirements document, and product marketing owns the MRD. But there are certain sections of those two documents that are overlapping to ensure that both teams are on the same page about the most important and critical components of the strategy. So things like the customer, target customer, you should have that in both documents. But the MRD is going to go a little bit deeper into detail on it. And so you want to ensure that it's within the PRD so that, of course, product managers have a clear understanding of their customer, that they feel ownership over being just as customer obsessed as we are. So that's one of the ways to kind of resolve some of that tension, but I do believe that it's helpful to have product marketers really own the MRD.
Yeah, agreed. And then just a little overlap, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, last one. We only have a minute left. In your opinion, what's the ideal PM to PMM ratio headcount? Is a product in a product-led specifically growth?
Is someone watching from my HR team? No. So this is always a tricky conversation, and I've come in and, like I said, built PMM teams from scratch. So I've come into orgs where we're starting at a 10-to-1 ratio. I can tell you now that is not ideal. So I usually find that the biggest unlocks tend to happen when you're at about 2 to 3 to 1. If you're in a really large organization and can get to one-to-one, that's amazing. But often I find that the kind of level of change and the level of granularity that we want to have as PMM is really to think at a more portfolio level. So I do think that, you know, having 2 to 3 to a portfolio of products against 3 product management products makes a lot of sense. So that's usually the area that I feel the most comfortable. Not there yet. Plenty of roles posted at Eventbrite, by the way, to get us to this ratio. So definitely know that this is always something top of mind, and I appreciate the question.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamila. Everyone give her a hand.
All right.
All righty. Thank you. Great job. So up next, I mentioned her in my opener because she's a proof point that